Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for being here and for this conference and for listening to me at the end of the day. It's a really distinct pleasure for me to address you at the end of what I consider to have been a very important conference with what I now intend to make some brief concluding remarks, which I hope you'll find helpful. Sadly, my ministerial diary has meant that I've not been able to attend the conference over the course of the past 2 days, but I have heard from colleagues and officials in my department about the fascinating discussions that have taken place, and of course the insights that have been shared, and indeed the connections that have been deepened, and this is very valuable indeed. I think, as Lady Arden said when she opened the conference yesterday morning, the free world must cohere to strengthen international law. That's the principal message that I wanted to relay by my appearance here now. A vibrant community of international lawyers is, frankly, fundamentally important to that aim. It always has been, but perhaps now more than ever. And this conference, this bringing together of great minds, of diverse perspectives, but fundamentally enthusiasm for the law, regard, respect, even affection for the law. It's such a vivid example of that community. We have heard firsthand from the leading figures of our international judicial institutions, the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court, and the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. But we should all feel great hope and confidence in the future of international law. And, of course, the international rule of law. And the theme of this year's conference, for which I join in thanking those displayed here beside me, the theme of it has been about international law in times of emergency, in times of crisis. Armed conflict, tensions, disputes in our systems of trade, these are things that are of crucial importance. The undermining of democratic values, climate change, all of these areas, to name but a few, are of fundamental relevance and critical importance across all of our communities. And international law, of course, has something to say on all of those things. And we should both listen to it and, of course, speak up in unison with it and build upon it. International law is also sometimes put to the test, as we all know, in times of emergency. Quite frankly, we often have to wrestle with international law. We have to consider how it applies in such times, and in some cases, shape it. But lawyers are always up, I think you'll agree, to the challenges presented by that. But, ladies and gentlemen, I should also add that government ministers, like myself, but across the jurisdictions, will naturally have their own political perspectives. There is nothing wrong with that. That's what they're there to do. And they will also have national interests. And sometimes that means that states focus their efforts on particular challenges. For my part, I was a lawyer in criminal practice for some 17 years before I came into politics. And I am deeply engaged in international justice and accountability, not least, of course, for atrocities that are committed, have been committed, and are being committed in Ukraine. I want to say at this point that I have a direct dialogue with the Prosecutor General of Ukraine, Andriy Kostin, as he admirably, and I know you'll all agree with me, he admirably bears the weight of domestic investigations and prosecutions in his jurisdiction, as did his predecessor, by the way, Irina Vedikitova, before him. And we are working tirelessly on all avenues in support of Ukraine. I very much welcome the fruitful discussions that I know have taken place during this conference on this important area of work and the role that international criminal law can play in this respect. It is not without its flaws, as we all know, and there is still work to do to build in this area, but it remains pivotal to accountability and to justice. And we must, as lawyers, continue to work to support these systems of accountability, as the Ukraine example shows us very significantly. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hand back to Sally Langrish, who is the Foreign and Commonwealth Office's legal advisor, formally to close the conference. But I do so, if I may, with my sincere thanks to you all for your attendance, for your participation, but perhaps most importantly, for your ongoing work in support of international law. Thank you all very much indeed.